Hello everyone. Today we're going to do a preview of Mike Mearl's Odyssey system. I say preview because it would be quite wrong to do a review because it's really a very early pre-production, pre-Kickstarter stage. Now Mike Mearl has made a lot of media splash recently. Of course, he was the lead designer for the fifth edition, the original fifth edition from 2014, and was only one of three people originally in that team, and he had two, game designers under him. Mike Mearl's real strength was as a team leader and somebody who had a vision of where the game was going to go, and he was greatly aided, I think, by the team under him, who came up with many of the innovative mechanics, such as bounded accuracy and reforming how advantage worked, that made 5th edition a success. And also he gave the whole project an old school revival vibe, which is much underestimated in terms of its influence on the game. And of course, Mike Mearl recently has been making a big media splash with a few interviews with well-known YouTubers like Questing Beast, where he's basically said that 5e is uncool, and the need to get rid of things like bonus actions, excessive subclasses, and so on and so forth. So therefore, it's very interesting to look at the Odyssey system, because 5.5e really was not a reset, a remaster, whereas Odyssey gives glimpses as to what a proper remaster of 5th edition might be, and it might be necessary because the sales have been poor. The sales are almost always have a bump in the first year after a new edition, because the last year, the old edition, is a depression. This has not seen that. It's seen a decline in sales, and I think it's inevitable that they'll clear out the old design team. We've done that after every edition, major edition change. There's only a few people like James Watt seem to have survived over the years, very few old timers. And I think it's necessary, really, to have fresh eyes looking at it. Of course, Mike Mearl is not fresh eyes, but he does have that wisdom of experience with him. It's interesting he hasn't done it with Chaosium, which he works for. He's doing it as a side project, and I don't think any human being has time, particularly if he's doing something like replacing 5th edition, to do it justice. And as we'll come on to it in our preview, I think that shows a little. It needs a team, and it needs much more effort in order to have that critical momentum. If you look at the teams that have done things like Tales of the Valiant or the Level Up system, big teams, and it's a big project. And I know myself, after spending nearly 2 years now doing my own Heartbreaker system, it's all consuming. It's really not like the kind of thing you can do as a part-time job. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just bring up a little PowerPoint here, and I want to really look at where, in terms of Heartbreaker systems, where this fits. And it's what I call Heartbreaker ladder. At the bottom, you have a disappointing remaster, just a minor do-over, 5.5e. Then going up a level is systems that say on their front cover they're 5e compatible. Tales of the Valiant, Level Up, so you can reuse spells, monsters, adventures. I think that's a fundamental mistake, because, as we'll come on to see, a fundamental problem with 5th edition is the math is wrong. You cannot keep 5e math. You cannot keep it compatible. You have to redo it. Then is next up is Refresh D&D, where you keep the main D20 concepts from Dungeons and Dragons and many of its assets, like the concept of a class, but you completely refresh the math and the systems. Now, 13th Age fits into that, you know, led by two former lead designers of Dungeons and Dragons, the third and fourth edition. Very interesting ideas in that. Odyssey fits into that, and my own Shatterheart system, which we'll come on to, fits in that. Now, next level up, I mean, this is basically, you know, avoiding scaring the horses. You have a game that has the feel of Dungeons and Dragons. You know, you can still fight, you know, that strange raptor bear thing, but it tries to fix what's wrong. The next step up is new system, same game. You keep those concept of assets like a thief class, etc., but you completely swap out the mechanics. Grim, wild, nimble, draw, steal, DC 20 are in that, so you're having things like, for example, automatically hitting in that. I think these are interesting and ones to watch, but there are fundamental problems, and particularly in terms of, you know, reaching a mass audience. It's such a big shift. Will you bring the audience with you? And the next up is wholesale shift. You are completely outside the Dungeons and Dragons approach. You have dice pool mechanics, or getting rid of the D20, having something like the D12, such as in Daggerheart. Dungeon World have Powered by the Apocalypse systems. Dragonbane, which is perhaps slightly less radical but doesn't have classes. You know, there's some really interesting game ideas in there, but I think Mike Mills, I think, rightly fitted it on the ladder in terms of the refreshed D&D step. Okay. Now, as I said, the background is the poor sales of 5.5 edition. Wizards of the Coast are risk adverse to a new edition. They only really did a new edition so they could revoke the license on D&D Beyond and buy it at a cheap price. Mike Mills is saying that D&D is uncool again. Now, where do we go from here? Now, this tweet here. I'll just bring it up because for some reason it's going on my other monitor. Odyssey is my taking that concept. How do you preserve 5A's best parts whilst murdering its worst parts and creating a game system around it? So what are they design pillars? The design pillars are not in the draft rules, they're in a blog post. As he says, a good game starts with a good vision. If you don't know where you're going, you can never figure it out. Now, I think there seems to be a number of design pillars. Remove bonus actions, unnecessary subclass, and the action economy varying by class. So, for example, a monk might have a very different action economy than a fighter. Now, is that the right analysis? I think that's the starting point here. Now, the project is very, very early stages. There are certain terms, you know, like proficiency. Is it the same as Dungeons and Dragons? Is it your level? Because there's only 10 levels plus an apprentice and novice level, 12 levels. So is your proficiency your level? So you have 0 proficiency at apprentice and novice, and then 1 proficiency at level 1. That seems to make sense, but I'm not sure. And is that compatible with bounded accuracy? I'm not sure. Well, just about, because you don't really, if you want bounded accuracy, you don't really want more than about 9 pluses on your rolls. We will see. But because it's not completely fleshed out, like the action economy, for example, how many actions do you have? I think you have an action and a movement. And there might well be things like free actions. I prefer an action point system myself. Like Pathfinder. My own Shatterheart system has an action point system, but you can only take 1 attack action, 1 spellcast action, or 1 heal action per turn. That's just the speed play. It's not completely explained, other than the rolling in of bonus actions with the main actions. So by class, an action does an extra thing. I think that's a good move, but is it enough, really? this is where I've said, and I think what the design goals need to be for a heartbreaker system, not to break your heart. Sorry, this is Mike Mearl's design goals. I won't read them all out, but it says the COG rules must speed up the game by being simple and clear, reduce bloated math, and keep the numbers easy enough to handle. Remember that people can always go back to 5.5 if they want complexity and rules for everything. I'm not sure that's a good call because they might not be compatible. Avoid fiddly quantifications, wandering modifiers, and strange edge cases. Yeah, that's good, but you know, 5th edition is absolutely full of those, particularly when you got multi-classing, and you've got to get rid of multi-classing, I think. Don't worry about world sim, starvation, food, etc. Well, it's so easy to do world sim rules, and they're completely lacking in most editions of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not sure that's a good rule. Use procedures to organise the action. That's good. You see many game systems these days setting out a clear, simple procedure for things like saving throw and so on that you use again and again. Okay, the design rules. But I think this is more important. You know, the design goals must come from your analysis of what is wrong. And we've seen some new systems that have dropped the ball in this case. For example, Draw Steel MCDM didn't set down clear design goals at its outset, changed its lead designer and changed its core mechanics halfway through. It was a big improvement, but if you set down the design goals and the rule mechanics that build off your design goals at the outset, you wouldn't have gotten that problem in the first place. So what's wrong that needs fixing? It's no longer cool. Now, that's not just about rules, though the rules help. It's about art, it's about culture, and everything else. And D&D seems to be locked into a spiral decline loop like Disney or Marvel comics. It's no longer cool. It's corporate. It's going to become like a monopoly and everything else under the Hasbro line. But I think Michael has missed the key problem, is that combat is slow. It takes hours, particularly at higher levels. There's a class imbalance, and classes and levels don't work above level 12 or so on. It has complicated and inconsistent specialization mechanics, like you have different dice for different classes. There's no clear universal system for resource management between classes, and there's a complete lack of learning from modern TTRPG mechanics like Degree of Success and powered by the Apocalypse systems, falling forward and integrating narrative play as the main driver and having everything else flow from that narrative. I would have preferred that. It's within a little D&D bubble. And I think you have got to pop that bubble and look outside it, like to some extent 13th Age has, if you're going to have a system that replaces it. Now, Odyssey has some interesting races, classes and background system, a bit like Pathfinder, 2nd edition and many other systems these days.